Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David.
Matt.
Hey, David. Hey, Rhonda.
Hey, everybody, this is the Feeling Good podcast, episode 466, and that lovely voice you just heard belongs to Matt May.
Oh, thanks.
So this is another Ask David episode, because we love to feature Matt in our Ask David episodes.
And I love to be here. Thanks for having me again.
So I thought I'd start off by reading an endorsement that someone named Michael sent me, and you, David, and he said, "I wanted to take a moment to thank you, Matt, Rhonda, and David, for all your incredible work. Your book, Dr. Burns, and podcast have been a real turning point for me. I've been working through many of the exercises and concepts you present, and while some days are better than others, I'm starting to see things more clearly and with a greater sense of compassion. My mind never really turns off, whether it's a simple task like mowing the lawn or a team issue at work. I find myself analyzing and reanalyzing. It's exhausting at times. Even when I try to relax, I feel like I need to be doing something. That's why your work has resonated so much with me. Your approach gives structure to what often feels like chaos. I now see how my anxious thoughts often latch onto anything, big or small, and spiral. Not because the content matters, but because the process is automatic. I also see how old emotional patterns, possibly rooted in complex grief or trauma, are showing up in present-day stressors. So thank you so much for all of your work. I really appreciate you."
Well, thank you, Michael. This was from Michael, and it was for that beautiful and thoughtful note. And we're glad that our podcasts and the app and things are helpful to you. That's our whole purpose. So when you find purpose in your life, you're giving some extra purpose to our lives too.
Yeah, that was a really sweet endorsement.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
David, do you want to summarize what we're going to talk about today?
Well, the first question, I don't know how long we're going to spend on the first question, so I don't know what all we're going to talk about today. But the first question that we promised at the end of the last podcast, I believe, if we got the numbering all right, is friendship a basic human need? And by way of very brief background, there's a lot of issues involved here. Especially is love an adult human need? And I remember when I was first going to Beck's workshops on cognitive therapy, when I was learning cognitive therapy, and I heard Aaron Beck say that love is not an adult human need. And I had the thought, I always suspected the guy was kind of a con artist or sociopath or something. And now I know for sure, because it seemed like such a horrible thing to say. But it turns out to be pretty big in life and in therapy. And I decided to test it, spending increasing time alone and thinking about it from a variety of perspectives. And I suddenly realized that when you're alone, you're never alone. You're with yourself. And if you love yourself, which is a choice, then you're never alone. So the only love you really need is your own. But a lot of people believe that, I must be loved by someone else, and their life becomes a frantic pursuit of finding someone to love them. And while there's a lot of beautiful things to that belief system, it often ends in suicide as well when there's a rejection and then the belief without love I can't feel happy or fulfilled. So although it's a beautiful belief, it has a pretty dark, cruel side to it. And the latest one is friendship, an adult human need, is just a slight variation on that one. So I look forward to the discussion. And I might say that a discussion on these kinds of topics generally has two sides to it. One is, what would be an intelligent way of talking about this and getting to some kind of truth of the matter. But the other is that it's kind of a political issue, too. And some people not only are committed to their belief that, friendship is an adult human need or friendship is not an adult human need, they get a lot of angry and, kind of agitated about if you don't have the so-called correct belief system. So it's kind of interesting from that point of view, too. But why don't you read the beautifully written question and then we can dive in, Rhonda. Was that enough of an intro?
Sure. So this is Zainab, and she asked, is friendship a basic human need? Hi, Dr. Burns. I have a question that has been pestering me for years. I know you said you don't need romantic love to be happy, but I find it hard to believe that you can be happy alone without any friends. Humans are social creatures, and there have been studies that said being alone is equivalent to smoking cigarettes. That's how detrimental it is to your health. Being alone can be very dangerous. That's why solitary confinement is one of the worst punishments given in prisons. Best regards, Zainab.
Okay, well let's dive in, and I'll let you folks take first stab at it, but I'll make one tiny little comment to get the ball rolling. The question is that Zainab asks, and thank you, Zainab, for that, and I really appreciate a thoughtful philosophical question. When you say, is friendship a basic human need, I guess you'd have to define what you mean by a basic human need before you could answer the question. But we'll let you two folks take a crack at it, and then if there's anything left there after your scholarship and heartfelt answers, I'll see if I have anything to add.
Matt, do you want to go first?
Well, there's a lot we could cover here. If I'm listening to Zainab, it sounds like he's probably heard about or seen there are some popular TED Talks related to a longitudinal study done by Harvard for about 86 years. It's still ongoing. They've been studying mostly men from Harvard's classes in the 1940s. And they've tried to look at what leads to a good adult development, happiness and health. And their conclusion was friendship as one of the most important variables there. So I suspect that that's what he's referring to. This is the study of adult development done by Harvard. And so that may be where a lot of people are getting their ideas around the importance of friendship and mental health. So I just wanted to flag that.
Matt, can I flag another research study that I think is similar that was done by Northwestern University?
Sounds great.
Before we do that, should we, if you send me the references to these studies, then we can, the online, so people can click on them and read them if they are motivated.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that's something I can easily do. Rhonda, you had another study?
The Northwestern University School of Medicine studied what people that they call super agers, people who are over 80, who have complete memory capacity. They don't have any cognitive or physical decline. And they also noted that all the people that were super agers were involved in a lot of social activities with friends and other human beings. That friends were really an important component of the lives of super agers.
Yeah, and I think we've probably all had experiences where we realized how important our friends are to us when we're going through a tough patch or just need some recreation and some quality time. I certainly value my friends tremendously. And yet I still agree with David on this. And I think maybe we could start to pick apart the studies and the data a little bit and try to understand how we could see that result, the longitudinal study, showing how important friendship is, but also get kind of confused about causality. Mm-hmm. So a longitudinal study can show, okay, this thing happened after this thing, or you're more likely to see people in good health at age 80 if they have a lot of close friendships at age 50. And that's one of the results of the study of adult development. However, it's not clear in a longitudinal study what actually causes what. And David, you're a statistician, and I think you're probably in a better place to talk about, why that is. But my understanding is that something else could be occurring there, and I have a suspicion as to what it is, which is that when people have really positive self-esteem and they love themselves, like David was saying, they're far more likely to have rich friendships because they're not chasing after those friendships and causing people to run away from them, or overdoing it in friendships and building resentment that causes the relationship to fall apart. But they've got a basic foundation of self-acceptance and self-esteem that causes them to have a lot of friends. And then that mindset is also the thing that leads to positive outcomes in life. That when people are depressed and they're disapproving of themselves and shooting themselves and labeling themselves, they're far less likely to be having friends and also far less likely to be successful and happy and healthy. So that's...
And then to piggyback on that, similar discussion was had about the Northwestern study. Mm-hmm. Which came first? Is it that these people who are super agers, just because of their own genetics or whatever is happening in their brain, they did not lose any cognitive functioning or they didn't have any memory capacity decline. So then they maintained the friendships that they had throughout their lives. So in both those studies, we don't know which came first. Or what caused what.
Doing a fine job of talking about statistics, but how about talking from the heart? Rhonda, is friendship a basic human need?
Well, friendship isn't a basic human need like water or food or air, but to me, it's a basic human need because it provides a lot of social support, the sense of belonging and connection, and what you said, Matt, shared experiences of fun and recreation. And I know when I went through lymphoma, I couldn't have done that without my friends. I had to have people drive me to and from all of the radiation appointments. And it was so much more helpful to me to make that a positive experience that friends did it and we could laugh and joke to and from the appointments. People brought me food and there was just so much support that I didn't really get as sad or depressed that I would have been if I had been by myself or alone.
I knew that no man was an island. I didn't know it was true for women.
Yeah, that's true for women too.
Okay.
So for me personally, you said you wanted it to be a personal discussion. Friends pulled me through that really, really challenging. And I'm including the two of you when you did the personal work with me. You guys pulled me through. And that was really an emotionally heartfelt and important experience.
So I think what you're saying is because friendship can bring a lot of good results as well as horrible results, right? Like friendship often leads to murder and torture.
Could you explain what you mean by that?
I'm sorry?
Could you explain what you mean that friendship leads to torture?
Murder are murdering people who they were once considering friends, and then they feel hurt and betrayed and kill them. But I think you're saying because friendship can bring a lot of good results, like getting you to the hospital if you're having a heart attack, for example, would be very desirable, or providing support when you have a serious diagnosis, as in your case, love and support and warmth and optimism, that therefore, if it's a good thing that can bring positive results, then it's a need. Is that the argument?
Yes. And, your argument that friends could lead to murder and damage, you could say that about food or air too. Like food, you can get food poisoning or other types of problems with food, and air, you could be breathing air pollution, which leads to cancer or other problems. So just like an emotion, there's positive and negative aspects to all of these aspects
sure.
of life.
So everything can have positive and negative sides. So you're right for sure. And but then what's the argument that it's a need? For example, if you have a hobby, a particular kind of hobby, you might love the hobby and really enjoy it tremendously. Does that mean that your hobby is a need?
No, it's just something that you get enjoyment out of.
What would be the definition of a need? That you can't have happiness without friendship. Like what would it that we need the friendship for? Friendship can be very very rewarding.
Well, is a need something that gives us purpose and direction?
Gives us direction.
And purpose?
So without friendship, we can't have purpose and direction. So we need friendship for purpose and direction?
No.
Like if you're lost, you might need a map.
Right. No. Okay, one other thing. You're making really good points, David. I know you talk a lot about Buddhism, and there is this concept in Buddhism about the illusion of separation. And the illusion of separation refers to the belief that we as individuals are inherently distinct and isolated rather than interconnected. And it's kind of a fundamental concept of the spirituality. There's an interconnection that's inherently a need.
While we're on that topic, so one thing that Zainab brought up to kind of question the validity of this idea was that people who are put into solitary confinement. Solitary is considered one of the worst punishments that you can dole out to a prisoner, is to put them in a place where there's nobody else there. It's just them in a cell. And so I think he's using that, he or she is using that as evidence that friendship is a basic need, or connection with people is a basic need. I would also point out, you brought up Buddhism, that some of the happiest people on planet Earth are people who have just meditated in isolation for long periods of time. And, on, surveys that you will hand out, or even brain scans of those individuals, you'll see really awesome functioning and happiness scores. And so it seems to me that there's some other variable that's not being seen. And I think David is probably going to suggest that it's this idea of internally derived love, that it's not being with someone else that causes a positive experience. It's the ideas that are in your mind when you're with them that causes either a positive or a negative experience.
Yeah, other people love can't actually have any effect on your emotions.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who commit suicide are extremely loved and have lots of friends.
That's true.
But they're giving themselves messages, that I'm a worthless human being and I deserve to die and there's no other escape from my pain. When we elevate something to a need, we're really saying, I really value this thing, and I judge that anyone who doesn't value it in the same way that I do is some kind of inferior person who's wrong or has bad values or something like that. Like a lot of really religious people would say that a belief in God is a need, or a belief in the baby Jesus as my Lord and Savior is a human need, and people who don't have that are going to hell. And my dad was a minister, and he said Jewish people are going to go to hell unless they confess Jesus as their Lord and Savior. Then they don't have to go to hell. I guess they go to some second-rate heaven or something like that. There's a kind of a judgment that I sense when people say love is a human need. But you can almost test these things with an experiment. If you're scientifically minded, and of course a lot of people would condemn science, as is going on right now in the United States. There's a massive hatred of science, hatred of truth movement going on. But, I did experiments using the pleasure predicting sheet and scheduled things that I did by myself and scheduled things that I did with other people. And I didn't find that the things that I did by myself were inferior, and I didn't find the things that I did with other people were always superior. Some of my worst experiences in life have been with friends, with other people, at a moment of hurt and argument and rage. And you might even think back on people that you once loved and the kind of hard feelings that can be created there. It's not whether you're alone or with someone else, but how you're thinking and what you're doing. But I found that the happiest moments in my life, there were two of them in particular. I was alone. And what Beck used to point out, if you look at human history, the top times that human beings have been when they're alone. Like when, was it Moses or Abraham? Who was the one who wandered for 40 days in the wilderness and saw a burning bush or went up on a mountain? And
that was Moses.
Moses, right. And then Jesus apparently spent 40 days fasting in the wilderness, and then after that he started his ministry. And I spent a little time on the desert alone and had some pretty fantastic experiences, as well as just doing things I loved when I was alone. I can remember when I was young, I went to a paper money show in Nashville, and I went alone because Melanie didn't want to go. She thought they were boring, and from her point of view, it was right, and she didn't want to be lugging the kids around. And I was just starting to collect world paper money, and this fellow said, "Well, why don't you just go to this show in Nashville? It's the greatest show in the world for world paper money, and you'll have a ball." And I didn't know much about it. And I had bought a bundle of brand new Bangladesh banknotes or something like that through an advertisement in a numismatic newspaper. And I must have paid $1 a piece for them, $50 for a bundle of 50 of them. And it was a lot of money to me, and I was really all worried that I would be getting ripped off there. Yet the show, I'd find out I'd been a fool. And then when I got to the show and all these people had all this rare, beautiful world paper money on display for trading and buying and selling, and I found some people who wanted to buy my Bangladesh banknotes for about double what I'd paid for them. I couldn't believe it. And then I found this guy, J. Roy Pennell, some kind of cement dealer from Tennessee or something like that. He had these beautiful old banknotes from India, proof notes. They would just knock my eyeballs out. And I said, "How much would these cost?" And he said, "Well, I don't know if I want to sell them. I haven't decided, but you can take them around with you on the show if you want, and while I'm thinking about it." And so I showed them to a British dealer, and they said, "Oh, well, if you'll come to London, we'll give you $7,000 in trade for this set. You can have anything in our inventory." And then I brought them back to Pennell and said, if you did sell them, how much would you want a piece? There were about 6 notes. He says, $200 each. And my eyes practically popped out of my head.
Wow.
And I said, "Well, do you want to sell them?" And he says, "No, but I'll let you take them home to Philadelphia while I think about it." And then he later sold it to him. But I got so high at that show that it wasn't because of friends. It was just because of being there. And I had to go out into the lobby of the hotel and get away from all this activity several times because I got so high, I couldn't tolerate it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time, I spent a lot of time alone doing structural equation modeling. Either of you can join me anytime you like. No one's taken me up on it yet. It seems like the most boring, hideous thing in the world. But I love it. And, even the cats won't hang out with me when I'm doing it.
That's hilarious.
I find a lot of satisfaction and joy in being alone, a lot of satisfaction and joy in being with others, and a lot of heartbreak on both sides of the equation.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there are times when you have a need to be alone?
No, I mean a need. What I'm going to die if I'm not alone. I just, I don't use that word need because it sounds so precious and judgmental to my ear. Oh, I need to be alone. Go away, asshole.
Are you comparing then?
To me.
Could you contrast need with a want or a desire?
Yeah, desire. Sure. I mean, desires are great, and we have a desire to be alone, a desire to be with other people. I have my Sunday hikes. We have our podcasts, some of the highlights of my life, but I don't need to be on this podcast right now, although it's a great joy. I love you both, and what a wonderful miracle this is. And it won't go on forever. I mean, you had a brush with death. I'm getting older. It's a fantastic thing.
I'm falling apart too, so.
So would you say that friendship, it's not really a need, but it's a desire? But even the desire to be alone, because either being alone or being around other people, and that provides us with all the things that we described, connection and et cetera, fun. Those are things that improve our life, or those are things that bring us joy or happiness.
Yeah.
But they're not essential.
Yeah, we don't need it. Like my wife's great at purchasing orange flesh honeydew.
Oh.
And she can smell a really good one.
Oh, wow.
And they're just available at this time of year. We've only had one so far this year, but they are to die for. They're so tasty. It's like heaven. But the other night the cat came into the TV room I was watching in the middle of the night and got up on my legs and stretched out, showed her tummy, and I was just petting her, and she was purring like crazy. And, those are just like wonderful experiences. But do I need orange flesh honeydew? I mean, I never had it for the first, probably 70 years of my life. I didn't even know what it was. So obviously I didn't need it.
And in fact, things like the love addiction or the approval addiction have that type of thinking, and it's a major source of suffering. Yeah. For people, the belief that they need love or that they need approval in order to be fulfilled or happy. Yeah. And it's actually that idea that's causing the bulk of their suffering and struggles in relationships.
Right.
If we take another example, if we're talking about pseudoscience, we could also look at the tabloids, where some of the people who are most approved of, and famous, and people just adore them, are like these movie stars, but we don't typically see them living lives that we would want to emulate. Like there's a lot of tremendous turmoil in their lives and suffering, and so I don't think we would expect that if approval were the thing that led to happiness, we would think that the most popular people would be the happiest people, but often they'll be ending their lives and victims of substance abuse.
Who was that
divorce.
Real handsome, tall guy who had that show on TV going around to different countries and eating the food?
Oh, Anthony Bourdain.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, he had success and approval and admiration, and friends. And then he what is it?
Well, he was also very isolated and separate from people because he was doing all the traveling. I don't know him. Just from what I read, that was one of the things that led to him feeling suicidal.
Yeah.
This is isolation from human relationships.
We know about mind reading and people like saying this is because of this and this is
right.
that.
It's just what was in the newspapers and magazines.
But he certainly didn't appear to be without friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I doubt he had to be alone. There was probably at least 3 people who wanted to be with him.
Probably.
It's attempted humor, but the poor guy hung himself.
And actually he was traveling with a friend of his, a close friend of his, when he killed himself. So.
Yeah, and if you take someone who's seriously depressed and surround them by friends, what will happen?
They'll be depressed, surrounded by friends.
Yeah. And I remember I once treated a woman who was diagnosed with a malignancy that had a good prognosis. And the one thing that she told me is, please don't let my friends know, because I'm afraid they'll pity me. You remember that?
I do.
I do.
Yeah. But at any rate, you're kind of outnumbered a little bit.
I am. You're convincing me, but it feels kind of sad that you're convincing me about this.
Well, you don't have to be convinced, and we're not necessarily right either. And
well, I do believe that friends improve our life, but are they essential, like healthy air, water, food? No.
Yeah. And can we be happy without a specific friend?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for that question. And we're not changing anybody's mind today, but I think it's kind of fun to talk about it. And my only issue is that as a psychiatrist, and I know to a certain extent, but both of you too, I've treated a lot of people who felt they needed love, they needed somebody to feel happy and fulfilled, and in most cases they didn't find happiness and fulfillment until they gave up that belief and learned how to find happiness within themselves, and that's the first part of my book, Intimate Connections, is how to find happiness when you're alone. And in that book, I state that, I told all my patients, yes, I can turn your love life from rags to riches, but you've got to pay the price. And the price is get over your fear of being alone first. And I can even remember when a colleague of ours got a young psychiatrist got divorced and then wanted to go back into dating, and he told me that he was going to follow my advice and spend 2 months alone before he went back into dating. And I won't name his name. It's not present company. I assure you of that. But and he said it was really helpful for him to discover that he could be perfectly happy when he was alone, and then that made it really easy for him when he went back into the dating world, because no one could kind of exert emotional leverage over him by rejecting him, because he wasn't afraid of being alone. It's probably a small point. It's probably not going to convince anyone of anything.
Well, I thought just to underscore one thing you said a moment ago was about the willingness to do an experiment. And the experiment that you asked me to do in the past, when I was struggling with this idea of loneliness and thinking I needed approval and love, was when you asked me to just set up activities that have some potential to be rewarding or enjoyable. Mark whether I'm doing it with other people or alone, and to try to predict in advance how much I would enjoy it. And I was really thinking to myself, I couldn't enjoy doing things on my own. That seemed completely true to me. And so my prediction was I would enjoy this thing, a negative extent. I set up.
Really?
Yeah. I thought that I would go to a movie theater, but the problem is that I would be all alone. Everyone else would be there with their date. And so I would feel very ashamed to be in that movie theater all alone. And then I wouldn't be able to enjoy the movie if I didn't have anyone to share it with or talk about the movie and kind of enjoy the experience together. But then I actually went and did it, and I had a positive 100% enjoyment. It was one of my favorite experiences. And I forced myself to sit in the middle of the theater to kind of confront my shame, so everyone could see that I was there alone. And then I got over kind of my ego and then I started to really enjoy the movie. It was a fantastic.
What was the film? I want to see it.
Yeah, it was called The Crow.
The Crow.
With Brandon Lee, who actually died making the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it was historically important, but also just a really fun movie.
Yeah, neat. The Crow.
Yep.
So I'll put the pleasure predicting sheet in the show notes. So if any of you are listening and you want to try the pleasure predicting sheet, that would be an experiment you can do. It's very easy. It won't take much time, and it might open your eyes, because that's the same thing I did, Matt. I was in Las Vegas at a convention, and I was there as a favor to a colleague manning a booth on some new antidepressant real early in my career. And but I'd heard Beck say, love is not an adult human need. And so I just decided to spend the evening alone. One of the other drug reps said, do you want to join us for dinner? And I said, we're going to party or whatever. And I said, oh, no, I've got a previous commitment. And then I spent the evening alone. I got in I knew my expenses would be all reimbursed. So I got in a taxi and I said, I want you to take me to the most expensive restaurant in Las Vegas. And then I got out. I got in and went to the maitre d' and I handed him a $20 bill and said, I need the fanciest seating here in the restaurant. It's for one. And he started begging and scraping, and I just had a ball all evening. I couldn't believe how much fun it was, just being by myself and being doing the things I wanted to do.
Yeah.
How persuaded are you, Rhonda?
I'm pretty persuaded. Yeah.
Well, Rhonda, you're so loving. I don't think you could possibly come to the opposite conclusion and break our hearts.
No, I'm persuaded. I love going to the movies by myself. I love sitting where I want and seeing the movie that I want at the time that I want without having to make any compromise about sharing popcorn. I love eating all of the popcorn myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot to be said for this experiment.
You're a neat person to be around, Rhonda, no doubt. No wonder you love it being by yourself.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I like this experiment. I think I'd invite our listeners to try this experiment that you said.
Yeah,
that you described.
Let us know how it turns out. But remember, when you schedule activities by yourself and those with other people, make sure the ones you do by yourself have a potential for pleasure, learning, and personal growth. Like if you schedule an activity for yourself and you decide to spend the evening cleaning the toilets or something like that in your apartment, you probably won't get a real high pleasure level.
Right.
But that isn't something you would schedule with a friend either. Hey, you want to come on over? I'm cleaning the toilets in my apartment, and we can do it together.
Let's do the dishes together.
Friendship will be wonderful.
Yeah.
But do fun things and see if you can discover yourself. I just discovered, David, you're not a half bad guy. You're not the greatest guy around, but you're not half bad to hang out with. The cats love you. Your dog loves you.
You're actually pretty hilarious to hang out with. Huh? You're pretty hilarious to hang out with.
Yeah.
But you definitely are.
It's a great and courageous question there. Is it Zarib? Did I pronounce it right? Or
Zainab?
Zainab. So thank you for that. Well, you want to take another question then? Yeah,
because it's a little similar.
Okay,
it's from Slash, and he wrote, I'm lost and alone. I really don't know what direction to take in my life.
Okay, this relates to the first one, and this next person is lost and alone.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Burns. I wanted to share some mixed feelings with you. Your podcasts and techniques have been very helpful, and I am truly grateful for the comfort and hope they bring me. I have been a shy, lonely person for most of my life, and only recently have I started to feel a little bit of confidence. Still, I worry a lot, just like my father. It's 4 a.m. as I write this, and I keep asking myself, what should I do with my life? Sometimes I dream about learning music. Sometimes I think about getting a job. But whenever I try, my anxiety takes over and I step back. I often see myself as someone carrying many kinds of anxiety: social anxiety, constant worrying, nervousness about driving, blood phobia, and even anxiety that comes out of nowhere. I've also learned from you, Dr. Burns, that hidden emotions can be powerful, and I'm beginning to notice that in myself. Sometimes I go out with friends and I enjoy the moment and I feel lighter. But when I come back and look at my father, my uncle, and my grandfather, I feel a wave of sadness again. My father struggles with anxiety. My uncle, who once lived bold and fearless, now has schizophrenia and cannot work. And my grandfather, at 88 years old, still travels in crowded buses to support the family. Their struggles weigh on my heart, and I often feel I'm not doing anything meaningful in comparison. Sometimes I even find myself seeing you, Dr. Burns, as a grandfather figure, because your words carry so much wisdom and kindness. It feels strange to say, but I really don't know what direction to take in my life. If you could share even a little guidance, I would be deeply grateful. Warmly, Slash.
Oh, very, very sad and moving email from Slash, and I just want to thank you, Slash, because you made some kind words about me, and I want to say that I feel sad that you've been hurting, and I hope we can give you a little bit of guidance, and maybe many other people too, because feeling sad and lonely is there's an awful lot of people in the world, and a lot of people feel that inside, but hide it. And so you're kind of bringing this important topic out into the open. And by the way, you can feel sad and lonely and be surrounded by family who love you tremendously, but it shows very much relates to our previous question that only your thoughts can influence how you feel, and that information you can use to change the way you think and feel. But let me give the first shot at this to you, Matt, and you, Rhonda. What should Slash do? He's lost and alone, and he wants to find some direction to take his life. And, well, I mean, to pursue in his life, not to take his life, but to find a direction for his life.
I'm happy to dive in there a little bit. I was also feeling for Slash. That was very vulnerable. I like that he shared feelings of being lost, alone, worried. He expressed, that he has social anxiety and phobias, and a lot of sadness when he sees the struggles in his relatives.
A lot of compassion for his family too.
Yeah. The question, what should I do with my life, is a little unclear to me. I would need to specify a more, like, what moment in his life was he trying to figure this out, and was this upsetting to him? When people start to ask, what is the meaning of life? I always ask, well, what part of life, what moment in life? And that's, because we can't answer such a vague question. We need a little bit more detail from him. But I'm hearing two patterns that could be helpful. One is he says he'll think about doing music or getting a job, but then get anxious and back away. And that reminds me of a question, David, you would sometimes ask your patients is, did they want to recover from anxiety first and then go live their lives and play music and get a job? Or did they want to go and play music and get a job first, even though they felt anxious about it? And we really only have that latter option. People want to feel no sense of worry or anxiety first, and then go out and face their fears. But it works the opposite way, as that he would have to face his fears in order to create a meaningful set of experiences for himself. Another thought that I had was he's saying, I should do something with my life, and I'm not doing anything meaningful. And those sound like specific negative thoughts and hidden kind of should statements, or at least in the second one. And the idea that I should be doing something more meaningful, or what I'm doing doesn't count, it's not enough, is a very common negative thought. And that's something we could potentially help him with to help his sense of self-esteem and worth. So I'll just pause there.
Gosh, I love what you just said,
your
Matt.
Your analysis is brilliant, Matt. Those were just super gems. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, the only thing I could possibly add is to issue an invitation to him about what you've just described, Matt. What would he choose to work on? And I'm a little confused too. Does he want to work on his relationship with his father, uncle, or grandfather, or is he just describing them as people in his family that struggle, and he's talking about them with so much compassion and empathy?
Yeah, I like that, Rhonda. That would be a great next step, is to invite him and then get specific about the type of help he's looking for. You know, if a miracle could occur in his life, what would that be? What would change for him? And then we could set up some really awesome exercises to help him.
Yeah. And I'm just on the same page as both of you with you, Slash, that if you were in a session today, I would want to empathize. And, at first I'd measure your moods to see if we're going to get a change during the session. So we measure how you're feeling in many dimensions at the start and end of the session. And then I would spend some time empathizing and probably 30 minutes. And during that time, I would not try to help you in any way. I would just try to paraphrase what you're telling me, acknowledge your feelings, try to develop a sense of trust and acceptance, and just let you vent. And then at the end of that time, I'd go on to the A equals paradoxical agenda setting, or assessment of resistance, the TEA, the A of team therapy, and find out, did you just want to talk, or did you want to roll up your sleeves and work on something? And then if you want to work on something, I would say, can you give me you mentioned many problems: fear of blood, concern for your uncle, concern about finding work. I can only help you for 1 5-second moment of your life. I can't help you with all of this stuff at once. My skills are very limited. And the Buddha made the exact same statement. I can only help you find enlightenment at one brief, several seconds of your life. But if you'll focus in on one thing, the understanding of what's going on at that moment will give you the understanding probably of all of your suffering. And when you find the solution at that one brief moment, that solution will be the solution probably to use in all the problems in your life. So those are just some general statements, but I'd be asking for a daily mood log, and how were you feeling? Where were you? What was going on? How strong was each feeling? Depression, anxiety, and then what were your negative thoughts? And I'm not doing anything meaningful. For example, as you pointed out, Matt, we picked up exactly the same thing as a typical negative thought, yep. And it's very self-critical. We have tons of techniques. What are the distortions in the thought? You said it's a hidden should. It's emotional reasoning. I feel like I'm not doing anything meaningful, so I must not be. I remember my first cognitive therapy patient was an elderly woman referred from the intensive care unit at the University of Pennsylvania because she had made a suicide attempt, and so I asked her, if I could present her in Dr. Beck's weekly seminar, so I could learn how to do cognitive therapy, because I knew my traditional things, give antidepressants and encourage, venting, never helped any of my patients. Really never, ever. I didn't see anyone recover when I was doing that.
Wow.
And so she was fine with that, and she said, I said, could cognitive therapy help someone who's actively suicidal? And he said, all you have to do, not all you have to do, but just ask her, what were you telling yourself at the moment you decided to kill yourself? And I thought, wow, that's some pretty awesome advice. And I asked her, and she said, oh, well, I told myself that all I've been doing for the last 50 years is I'm a house cleaner. And so I scrub people's floors, I vacuum their carpets, I clean out their toilets, and I wash their windows and that type of thing. And that's all I've done. I've never done anything meaningful. I've never done anything important. And that's why I feel like a worthless human being and why I decided to kill myself. So I'm not suggesting that you feel like killing yourself, but that's very painful. And what you're saying to yourself, that's the source of your unhappiness, and that's something that you can change by writing down those thoughts, identify the distortions in them, do some positive reframing, and then use any of the 50, 100, 150 techniques we've developed, the double standard technique, explain the distortions, the acceptance paradox, and many others to challenge those negative thoughts that are creating so much pain for you. And then also taking a page out of Matt's book, using exposure techniques to confront your fears rather than avoiding them and backing off. Some of the behavior therapists say avoidance is the entire cause of all anxiety, and confronting your fears, exposing yourself to the thing you fear the most, that is always going to be the cure. So anyway, there's some input.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, I hope to hear back from Slash again.
Yeah. Let us know if we're helping you out in any way, and but we really thank you for listening to the show today, Matt. You've been out for 2 weeks. The time just flies by, and it's
sure
so great
does.
to have you back.
Yeah.
You bring such calmness and love and empathy compared with incredible wisdom. Have you ever counted up the number of hours you've spent since, even including residency, being with patients? Each week, and then multiply the number of weeks? And
that's a great exercise. I'll consider doing that. Thank you, David. I'm sort of glowing inside after that very nice those very nice statements from you. Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without you.
Oh, yeah, we had so much fun when you were a resident, and I'll never forget when I think you were, I was trying to tell the residents to measure mood at the start and end of sessions, because I had one student who's doing that, and he's getting tremendous change within sessions, and the residents were saying, oh, that's a lot of, bullshit and malarkey. And I said, well, it's Matt May, and if you're going out of town, ask him to, cover for you when the week or two that you're gone, and, he can see your patients a couple times for you, and you can see what happens. And then when they got back from vacation, they would say that their patients that they'd ask you to cover for them while they were on vacation were pretty much cured. And I don't know if it made believers out of them, but I know they were pretty shocked and surprised. But that must have been 20 years ago, and you've been blazing trails ever since. So it'd be fun to see, because you're a treasure now.
I had the best teacher in the world. So
yeah. Well, okay, thanks. We have a mutual admiration society.
Definitely.
Yeah, it'd be fun to know how many hours you've spent with patients, and you've had some tough ones. I remember when you were starting out, and some woman was actively suicidal, and you were really, really worried.
Oh, yeah. I was terrified even just to make the first phone call to my first psychotherapy patient. I was putting all this pressure on myself. What do you say in the first phone call to someone who's going to do therapy with you? But you helped me through in so many different ways. But one of the main ones was just offering me a place to practice empathy skills and listening. And but you also helped me at a much deeper level to overcome a lot of my own neuroses and depression and anxiety and things like that.
Not too far, Matt, because some people are incurable, as you know.
Well, yeah, exactly. Everyone has a limit to their skill. Thank you.
It's amazing that you got
much appreciated.
You got to work with David from the beginning of your career, Matt.
Yeah, I feel so lucky.
Yeah. One other thing, pitch I want to make today is you all know that our beloved Rhonda has been out on leave of absence from your practice for, something like 8 weeks due to treatment for this potentially fatal follicular lymphoma, and you endured radiation treatments to your neck. And it was very incredibly anxiety provoking, some considerable physical discomfort. And now you're back and ready to change the world again. And so Rhonda, when you had to give up your practice for 2 months and lost many, if not most of those patients, some have remained. But if you've been wanting to see Rhonda and not been able to, that now is your chance to grab her and set up some time with another wonderful therapist and wonderful human being. And so you get everyone's contact info at the bottom of the show notes.
Oh my gosh, David, thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. That was so kind of you.
It's richly deserved. You have, tens and thousands of fans at least who adore you, Rhonda. And two more here in the studio with me today.
Yeah, thank you. And I only have them, just like Matt says, because of my relationship with you. This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.